Hello, everybody. My name is Christian. I'm the host of the Disruptive Chef Entrepreneur show. And you guys gonna love today's guest. He is from the other Austria where I'm from. He's from Australia and is actually calling in from Australia. Not only is he inspiring, a global minded individual, I always thought he was a chef, but the day I learned, I let him tell you. There's a few things I absolutely love about him. He is the executive director of the SDG2 Advocacy Group. And you guys know how important advocacy is for me. I think we need more Pauls in this world. And I absolutely love, and I want to hear more about the vision behind Chef's Manifesto. And with that, I want to introduce Mr. Paul Newnham. How are you? And thanks for calling in from Australia.
No, it's so great to be with you, and thank you so much. It's always good to be able to chat with somebody from a country that's got the namesake as well of Australia. And I was reading just the other day that apparently in Vienna Airport, this is a random fact, but there is a service desk for people that arrived in Austria thinking they were arriving in Australia. And I think that's just so amazing, because this connection between Australians would do the same. And it's very interesting, but it's amazing, those kinds of connections.
I love that. And we have a T-shirt. There's no kangaroos in Austria. So we have this giant thing, no kangaroos. People are upset, I hear. So, but I really appreciate it. First off,
country,
Paul, yeah, thank you. So, Paul, I'm really, really looking forward to this conversation. And my team was prompting me already, don't forget about Paul. Don't forget about Paul. So I'm really excited. So, but before we start, give our audience a little bit of glimpse. How did this whole thing start? Why food? Why advocacy? What do you do as the executive director? All the great things. Give us the 2-minute cliff note. How did it all start?
Well, look, I mean, there's so many elements to everyone's journey, and everyone is shaped by a thousand relationships and situations. For me, I grew up with parents that worked around the world. So we lived in many different parts of the world. I grew up and spent a lot of my childhood in Asia, in Africa. And as you can imagine, I was exposed to many different cultures, many different situations of people at all different walks of life, all different amazing food, all different amazing cultures and traditions and the like. And through that, I guess, I saw the world in a particular way. I started to see the diversity of our planet as a real strength. I saw it as that there's an amazing group of people coming from all different walks of life, trying to really make the best for their communities to drive that forward. And so as I started to work into my career, obviously I started to want to work in a way that actually it really gave back, that helped to bring a connection. And I believe strongly in the power of good food. I believe that food is something that gives us not only nutrition, it not only gives us the strength to do all the things we need to do to have a healthy life, a happy life, but it's also about love. It's about the way we connect with one another. It's about the way we express ourselves. It's the way we share our culture, we celebrate all of these things. And so when I look at the world and I see some places having, enough and others not having enough, when some people are getting the wrong type of food or they can't access it, to me, that actually takes away from our all combined joy of food. So we've developed a program that works to try and help address some of that. We address that through frameworks like the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which were signed on to by every country in the world in 2015. And through that, we really see the transformative power of food, the table, the dishes that come together. And I'd love to talk more about that as we go. And so one of the key actors we believe strongly in is chefs. We believe chefs are at the intersection of what comes from the farm, what are different ingredients, and the plate. fuse flavors, they bring together and highlight stories. And through doing that, they bring joy to people's lives. They bring fulfillment, nourishment.
Yeah.
They can make decisions that also impact right back to the farm, to the soil. And so there's this unique position of chefs. And so we created a framework for chefs to drive forward the work that they're doing in so many parts of the world, but to connect that up into an integrated framework, a kind of story that they can then find themselves within that connects up to some of these bigger ideas. Not to say every chef should do everything, but to say chefs can all be a part of something. They can be contributing in different ways.
I absolutely love that. And by the way, I can talk to you for hours just about that little thing. Because for me, the hardest thing always was I wanted chefs to be or think differently. And all of the things you do today is not being taught in the hospitality industry. It's not taught in schools. And for me, that was the big struggle, because for me, as I went back to this nutritional school, the first thing my teacher said, "Oh, you're a chef," and it was like, "Oh, really?" And it totally changes not just the outlook. Or for me, it was like, wow, that really needs to change in our industry, and that kind of goes with your mission. You said chefs as agents for change. You have spent most of the last decade helping chefs become advocates, not just for themselves, but in the kitchen. Why or what do you believe makes chefs that unique person for you to do that, number one? And the second question is, how does it come, or how did it start for you to be not just driving global change, but being the person which actually is making it happen for chefs?
Yeah. Thank you. Look, I mean, I think chefs are in a unique place. When you think about the role of a chef, you get instant feedback. So you're in one of those few professions where you send out plates and people either devour them, eat them all up, and send them back completely clean, or they send back the plate with half the dish still uneaten. So you get feedback instantly. That is a unique gift. That feedback enables you to actually adjust, to pivot, to be able to think about how you're bringing, connection with the eater. And I think that's a unique role. At the same time, there's so many choices you make: how much salt to add, what ingredient to pick, which grain to use, where you source from. And no matter where you are in the kitchen hierarchy, you have choices you can make. You have choices in the way that your knife hits a chopping board. And this is really critical. And so I really am a strong believer in the fact that chefs can play a key role. They can use the craft that they have to really drive that. Why I got involved is because I've been, working in this field for a number of years. I originally started doing a lot of work around really trying to raise money to support challenges around the world. And so I worked for big charities and I raised lots of money, and then we sent it to support communities. And what I learned in doing that was that it's very easy to make people feel guilty.
Yeah.
It's very hard to change people and make them, really connect. And one of the challenges of that is guilt drives a particular thing in our psyche. Guilt makes us react.
Yeah.
We don't like feeling guilt, so we react and push it away. Whereas when you engage people in joy, or you engage people in a mission, they actually lean in.
Love that.
And chefs are unique because chefs talk about celebration. They talk about food. They talk about enjoyment. People look forward to food 3 times, 4 times, 2 times, depending on where you are in the world, will depend how often. But each day you're thinking about, what am I going to eat today? What are the things I'm going to, engage in? And chefs have this unique space. So working with chefs, to me, chefs are amazing change makers. They're at all different levels of society. They're in all the important rooms around the world, actually, as well. But often their voice is not being given the respect that it is. It's all across our sound, our TV, our media, but often we're just talking to them about flavor. We're not talking to them about all of these other elements. And so for me, trying to create frameworks to help elevate chef voices has been something that's been a real critical way to really drive change. And so I'm passionate about change, and I believe chefs are change makers.
I absolutely love that. Also, chefs are giant pain in the butts because they think, hey, this is what I learned at school. Why are you telling me to do this differently? Why do I need to soak my beans? It makes just no sense. But for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
what I absolutely love is how you took this and let's pivot a little bit to the birth of the Chef's Manifesto. I wanted to know what sparked the idea behind that for the whole Chef's Manifesto, and how did that global network you supporting come to life?
So I was sitting in a meeting in Stockholm, and there were a range of people around the table. These people were representing different walks of life from across the food industry. So you had big operators, you had
Mhm.
big name chefs, you had people with 2, 3 Michelin stars, you had environment ministers from countries, you had scientists, and they were all discussing how do we really drive food system change. And a lot of it was focused on really engaging chefs. The challenge was everyone was talking about their idea. They were talking about their issue. So some people were saying food waste is the answer and we should just focus on food waste. Others were
Yeah.
saying it's about access. So they were talking about, food soup kitchens and food, offerings. Others were talking about biodiversity. Some people were talking about seeds. Some people were talking about soil. Others were talking about different ingredients. The challenge was after that 3 hours, I walked out of the room and I was confused. These are the people that should be driving the change. And they were all talking across each other, all correct,
Mhm.
all saying really good things. But I was like, where is the action coming from? And the problem was they were stuck. They were stuck in what they were thinking about, and they were working within their own capacity, but rather than seeing it part of a system. So what we did was we started to go, when you get stuck, where do you go? You zoom out. You zoom out and you
Mhm.
go, what else is happening? When you look at all of this, you then go, this is all right. Everyone should be focusing on these areas. Everyone should be zooming in and really driving down onto certain points. But they can't do that in isolation from one another, and they can learn from one another and seeing those connections. So the Chef's Manifesto was born from that conversation. It was born from that. And what we did was we then said, let's go out and bring together voices from chefs in 35 countries. Let's engage with them. Let's see how they talk about these issues. And let's create a framework, an action framework that doesn't tell you what to do, but tells you where to look, that tells you a
Mhm.
frame for action. And we preference action. And so what we've done is create a framework which has 8 thematic areas. It has a set of actions that chefs can take in their kitchen and they can go, where are we at on these issues? How are we engaging in this way? So there's things like investing in livelihoods. How are we thinking about the people in the business that we're in, from the farm to the kitchen? How are we thinking about local and seasonality? What does that look like in our menus? And in every country
Mhm.
in the world, that's different. Seasonality in your part of the world, there's a lot more, difference and richness. In some parts of the world, if you're living in the Middle East in the middle of a desert, it's a very different seasonality. If you're living in Singapore, it's a very different local, food system. So you've got to pivot. And what we see is that culture and diversity as strength. That's that kind of conversation. And so you see chefs come together talking and learning from one another. And you'll have one chef going, this is the way I break down and view an ingredient, and another saying, this is the way I do it, but they can learn from one another.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And by the way, I love the whole idea of the Chef's Manifesto because I honestly feel so many people say chefs are so egotistical. They only care about what they want to do, and they want to do just their own stuff. I disagree. I honestly feel if you the whole idea of when a student is ready, the teacher will appear. And I honestly believe if you stand in front of a chef and it makes sense of what you're talking about, and it sounds like you had a lot of people at that place which wanted to have some sort of change, but they didn't know where to start. And for me, that's exactly what it sounded like, more than just as confusion. They didn't know how to come together. And for me, what
Yeah.
chefs are really good is in supporting each other when we are behind
Yeah.
the same cause. And for me, I absolutely, absolutely love that. So you also talk a lot about, beyond awareness, and not just beyond awareness, it's going into action. So what are some practical ways a chef's manifesto or a chef supporting the manifesto can become an effective advocate for the food system transformation? And how can they not just do that? How can they achieve by supporting SDG2?
Yeah. No, it's really important to drive action, and this is something that we've been continuing to work on over the years. But let me give you a few examples.
Yeah.
So one of the areas of the Chef's Manifesto is really looking at protecting biodiversity. So we see chefs as the guardian of the larder or the pantry. So if
Mhm.
these ingredients are not being used, they're not going to be then cultivated, they're not going to be maintained, they're not going to be valued. And so when we value them, they create market, they create opportunity. And
Mhm.
currently in our world, 60% of our calories come from four ingredients. We have 30,000 ingredients and counting, in the
Yeah.
world. So you're using a very small, the majority of our food system comes and relies on a very small number of ingredients. That's kind of boring when you ask me. That's just
Mhm.
one thing. But it's also really limiting because we're not getting the nutritional diversity. The soil and is not getting their benefits. So when we look at this, we've kind of said, how do we look at biodiversity? What are the grains that we can be using? So an example in India, we have a number of chefs who have been working to really promote millets. Millets are often what in many parts of the world people would see as birdseed or
Yeah.
seen as a peasant's food. But millets
Yep.
use 1/7 of the water that rice does. They're incredibly nutritious. And when you utilize them, you're adding value. You're adding to people's nutritional impact. You're adding to reduction in water and improved soil. And so this is something that's really key. So we've got a number of chefs who have worked to really promote millets in different parts of the world, in India, in West Africa, and that has really shifted how millets are being viewed. They're also gluten free. There's all these benefits. But so that's an example, really practically championing an ingredient. That goes everywhere from people who are involved in things like MasterChef and those kinds of programs in India.
Yeah.
Um, you also have in West Africa people like Pierre Thiam, who runs Yoleli Foods, which use fonio, which is another ingredient, which is an amazing ingredient. And he's developed a whole company called Yoleli Foods, driving that forward. So just great examples. The other area is thinking about what kind of products do we need to get more of in our diet. And when we talk to nutritionists and look at nutrition, there's a lot of conversation around a lack of fiber. So there's a big obsession on protein, but one of the biggest challenges in our diet at the moment is fiber. The majority of people in North America, in Europe, in Australia are not getting the fiber they need.
Mhm.
They've got plenty of protein. And the challenge is fiber really impacts our microbiome. It impacts our
Yeah.
gut. So we've started a campaign called Beans is How, which is really looking at doubling the consumption of beans, peas, and lentils. And this was a campaign thought up by us. He was saying, how do we drive change? And he said, why don't we just get people to eat more beans? And we've been working on a campaign. We have a coalition in 120 countries. And so chefs are putting bean dishes together. They're thinking about how do you substitute in different cooking from desserts through to mains, putting in beans, peas, and lentils in unique and different ways to get people to really increase that fiber, maintain the protein, get those macronutrients. And they're great for the soil. They're very affordable as well. And so when price of ingredients are going up, if you're working in the catering space, this is really critical to look at, You're in a business. How do you make ends meet? How do you make this happen? And so we've been working with Put Beans on the Menu. Just recently, the New York Times announced that beans on the menu was the standout trend in New York for 2025. And so it's been amazing through a combined effort of chefs to really make that happen.
I love
Just
that. And I want to, I want to hear a little bit more about it, because you also talk about hungry for action, forest for food, and so many other things. Let's talk a little bit more about how chefs can take an ingredient like beans and have an instant impact, not just for the customers and the health benefits of the beans, but also have an impact in some of the causes you support.
Yeah. So I mean, Beans is How is a campaign that's been running, and it's built around the premise of beans are a solution to some of the big challenges we face. So when we think about the big challenges out there, questions, there's all these issues, and we sometimes feel overwhelmed because you're sitting there and you're going, what do I do? Where do I go? And so simply by adding beans, you're addressing, health issues, climate and environment issues. You're also addressing farm issues around soil and water. You're also addressing, diversity issues around, like, every type of culture in the world has a bean, pea, or lentil dish. So you're able to highlight, to showcase, to bring forward stories around food, and food stories are critical. So for us, we've seen amazing results of chefs that have just taken this to their kitchen and said, okay, let's track and measure. When they've done that, they've been and go, okay, based on this kind of challenge, how is your impact? And like, I was talking to a friend from Iron for the last couple of years, the amount of beans, peas, and lentils are not only an impact on the bottom line, it has these sustainability impacts, which is absolutely critical. And so for me, that is really practical. Our campaigns, like Forest for Food or Hungry for Action, are looking at challenges around our food system. So one is connecting nature, so connecting the kind of protection of forests, which we all would say are really critical, with also food systems, because we can't just protect forests and have a great environment without also thinking about people that we have to feed. And so how do we think about the symbiotic relationship between forests and food? Our water system and fresh water relies on forests. And so if we cut down all the forests to plant food, we aren't going to have water to feed those fields. So there's this symbiotic relationship of, it's not an either or. And I think a lot of the time we're all looking for one thing to focus on. And the reality is that there's actually lots of things to focus on. It's just like as a chef, when you're putting a recipe together, you can focus on one technique or one ingredient, but if everything else falls off, you're going to always have challenge. Whereas when it all comes together in magic of, using not only technique, ingredient, craft and skill and creativity, you create the right recipe and it really pops and really stands out. And it's the same in our environment. It's the same in our ecosystem. So for advocacy, I would say to chefs, really think about how you're working in a more integrated way. Think about what are all the ingredients, and think about where you want to put an energy and you want to put effort to really drive change.
I absolutely love that. And for me, it's not just the things you said. It's so simple. The things you're talking about. You also talk about collaboration over competition. So you have said there's not a single solution for global hunger or for climate change. So talk to us a little bit. How has that thought or your career helped to power not that collaboration amongst unlikely allies? Let's say that. But talk to me a little bit where that whole idea of collaboration over competition came from.
So this has been something that I guess I've developed. I mean, I studied a very eclectic group of things at college, and really in looking at them, I studied culture, I studied history, I studied
Okay.
religion. I really started to look at how do people organize in stories, how do people work together, what does that look like, and in accepting that, I guess what I saw was a way of working, a way that people tell stories, a way that people engage with one another, a way that people capture history, which then
Yeah.
leads to identity. And I also looked at how do you do, your disruptive, as well, but how does disruption happen? And disruption is something that is absolutely critical to have breakthrough thinking. You've got to think about how do you change the trajectory that you're on. And when you think
Hmm.
about it, there was a key book that I read, which is called Riding the Creative Roller Coaster by Nick Udall.
Yeah, I love
And
that.
and
Yes.
Nick talks about, the fact that it's more about a frequency when you're talking about innovation. It's
Mhm.
about going up and down. And creating space to operate in the unknown is critical. So when you think about trying to disrupt, you've got to actually be in unknown territory. You've got to be in a place where the rules don't exist, or where, and to do that, you need frameworks, you need ways of thinking. And so when you start to do that, it's really critical for us, if we are going to drive change, to create frameworks for people to be able to stretch their thinking, to get outside their comfort zone, to think differently. And so when we've created campaigns and frameworks, it's really about helping people get over those hurdles of, where they hold themselves back. So when you say, I want to contribute and drive a change, some people go, oh, the problem's too big. I can't do anything. So you go, okay, where do you start? Well, start with beans. Let's get beans into your diet or into your kitchen.
Yeah.
And they go, what? And you go, well, this is an answer which addresses all of these challenges. And they go, really? Oh, I can do that. You know, and it's the same when you kind of maybe whisper something at an event or in a kitchen, and people go, what did you say? What did you say? Everyone's looking for answers. And so it's sometimes about positioning solutions which are win-win-win
Hmm.
and putting them out there and then helping people disrupt their thinking to be able to drive that forward.
Yeah, that is spot on because there's not just a lot of misinformation out there. People just don't know where to start. And having
Yeah.
somebody like you, I love the idea of beans because beans are something absolutely delicious. And for me, when we
Yeah.
make beans at home and we soak them overnight, I walk by and I'm all excited of what we will have tomorrow. But for me, it's the little things. But I see it here in the US and I see it in so many different places. There's just so much information out there. People just don't know where to start. And you also talk a lot about, inner work and the outer impact. So you have shared that
Yeah.
disconnections and self-reliance were one of the survival tools you had from your childhood. So how
Mhm.
has doing that inner work or whatever you want to call it helped you lean more into who you really are, and what advice would you give to somebody how that journey impacted you?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a huge energy in really understanding what we bring
Hmm.
to things. So we all turn up with a lot of background around how we grew up as kids, what happened to us, how we see the world. And this really impacts and shapes the way that we react to the people, the situations, the opportunities that we see. And it can either be something that holds you back in terms of you constantly are having to deal with it, or it can be something that unlocks something for you. The unlockers is to really start to accept your journey, your space, your what shaped you, and enable that to become world differently, to think about the world differently, to
Hmm.
make peace with the world in a different way. It can also be your drive, it can be your creativity, but it can also be a challenge.
Yeah.
If you let that control you. So it's thinking about that. And I think about my journey, and I grew up very quickly. I went to a boarding school when I was very young. And that meant strength. That's a real badge of honor, I guess. But it was also really challenging because it meant that certain things, I struggle to relax in certain environments. So I have to be very proactive in trying to address these things. So, it drives you, but the downside of being driven is sometimes you need the downtime to get the creativity, to get the inspiration. So it's about finding those spaces. Yeah.
I love that because you just described a chef. So I'm telling you, you deep down you meant to be a chef, and you talk so much about mentorship and giving back. So uh, you actively make time for emerging change makers to just reach out and say, "Hey, I need help here." Um, how is that working for you, and how can people get a hold of you um, to get some additional support from you?
Yeah. Look, I mean, this has been something that I really I try and do the best I can is to really lean in and get
Mhm.
who are trying to really drive an impact. And often they've got an amazing platform and they're really trying to work out how do they navigate some of the
Yeah.
complexity. And we have a team that works on monitoring some of the policy discussions, the frameworks, and creates campaigns, as we've talked about, active action. I've also been super lucky to be able to meet people all around the world that are really at the cutting edge of change, and we're constantly looking at ways to share that content. So that might be through social media and on our different channels. Most of those channels sharing very regularly. We also,
Yeah.
I have a podcast, Future Fork, and we utilize that as a way to deep dive, like these kinds of conversations, to really kind of bring together scientists, farmers, chefs at different points in the intersection around the world to kind of a lot of why you can drive change is through a web of relationships, a web of
Love that.
connections. And we build a lot of networks to do that. And so the intent is to also replicate. So when you talk about mentorship, it's there's only so much each of us can do.
Mhm.
But if we can invest in people, those people can also invest in others. And hopefully over time, that will continue to grow as ripples in a pond impact. And
Yeah.
that's something that we try and do. So we work with lots of partners in different parts of the world that are driving impact. And we try and connect them. And then we try and encourage them to also really look at how they're driving change and how they're building those.
I love that. And for me, there's three things you said for me would really hit home, and it's the whole idea that we all need somebody who sees in us what we don't see in ourselves. And you've been this for so many chefs and leaders in the industry. The other thing for me is as simple as raising my hand, say, "Hey, I'm willing to support this. I want to learn something new. Not only do I want to learn something new, I want to make an impact." And the final thing for me is what is exactly everybody says about you. You're an amazing human being. You're super knowledgeable about this, and deep down, you meant to be a chef. So I think I need to start calling you a culinary constable because that's really what you are. So now with that, Paul, tell us, give us the big bowl. If you look in the crystal, what is Paul doing for Paul to the end of the year? And what are you doing for the causes you support to the end of the year?
Yeah, so for me, I've been sort of traveling and being, working abroad for a number of years. I'm back in Australia at the moment in terms of home base, and we're in the process of building out a small spot down on the Mornington Peninsula, which is a beautiful part of the world. And so one of the things I'm trying to do is there's a really good framework of garden here. We have like 30 fruit trees. We have our chickens.
Love
We
it.
have a whole range of things, but I'm really trying to build out our food growing space and really trying to lean into getting the soil in really good shape, to build a framework to be able to really lean in and grow a lot more food. I think growing food is it keeps you honest because you have, you're constantly seeing what are the challenges with the environment, too much rain, not enough rain, pests, other competition. You're looking at, and you've got tons of choices to make about what do you get. But there's also intense satisfaction seeing food grow, and it develops food empathy where you think about food in a very different way. And I just find it, the creative outlet is also really important. Putting your hands in soil, creating beauty alongside is really, really beautiful. So, between now and the end of the year, it's winter in Australia. So we're in the middle of the downtime. So it's like you've got to work really hard in the downtime so that then when spring comes, everything's been improving the soil. I've been, working on planting lots of beans and peas to get that nitrogen into the soil, working on building that frame so that during spring and summer I can harvest amazing real outcomes. But so that's personally. And then professionally, this year is obviously we know the world's in having lots of challenges. There's conflict around the world. There's a lot of impact where food is being used as a weapon in a lot of those conflicts around the world, and that's from Africa to the Middle East to Europe, and in so many different parts. And there's a lot of conflicts which that never hit the news, and so we try and also think about what's going on behind there. So for me, it's really about trying to understand what does leadership look like in this space? How do we best contribute? There's so many things you can do, but what are the things that really make a difference? And Brazil is leading a number of initiatives this year. Potentially Australia is on the global stage next year. So it's working out also how do you best support? How do you gather? How do you position? So professionally, there's a lot going on that front. We're really trying to connect this forests, and we're trying to drive forward the beans work and get on putting beans on the menu. So a lot of work going on.
I absolutely love that. So if people want to learn more about you and the causes you're involved in, how can people get a hold of you?
Sorry, you just dropped slightly.
Yeah,
say that again.
Yeah. So if anybody wants to support you and want to learn more about you, how can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, so just look at Paul Newnham. We can probably put into the notes for the podcast some links. But if you take a look at, I'm on Instagram, LinkedIn as Paul Newnham, and that's probably the best place to start. We keep fairly good eye on that. Reach out there, and then me or one of the team will be able to get back in touch with you.
I can swear he's amazingly good on Instagram, and he's also amazing on LinkedIn. So that's how we connected. And I absolutely love what you stand behind in the causes you support, because for me, it's much deeper than just that. For me, I honestly believe you're a shining example that chefs can be so much more than just culinary professionals. They can be change makers, they can be policy influencers, they can be global citizens. And for me, that's what you stand for. And it's absolutely amazing to have you here today and have that conversation with you. And as you said, I will have in the show notes links and everything out so people have a easy time following you. So with that, I wanted to ask, are you up for playing rapid fire question food service edition? And because we went back and forth, do we do the chef edition or not? We gave you the hard one. So are you up for playing rapid fire question food service edition? So it's really simple.
Yeah,
25
sure.
questions. I will ask you for a number. I read out the question, and then you answer as quickly as you can. Yes, no, and why? Because we want to know what is the why behind it. So are you up for playing rapid fire question food service edition?
Absolutely.
Give me number.
Let's go into it.
Give me a number between 1 and 25. I think we lost Paul.
Well, hi.
You back. Good, good. Hold on. It's
I
40.
didn't touch anything because I didn't want to lose anything that was uploading, but I just stopped everything and I was like, what happened? It disappeared. Sorry.
Yeah,
I do want to
do
do the question.
yeah, do not. I wrote down, so we will edit it. Not at all. So with
Yeah.
that, Paul, are you up for playing Rapid Fire Question Food Service Edition? So the way it works is really simple. I have 25 questions. I ask you for a number. You give me the number. I read out the question, and then we want you to answer as quickly as you can. Yes and no, or why. So you're up for it.
Awesome.
Okay, let's do this. First number. Give me a number between 1 and 25.
Hi,
Okay.
Chef. I'm not sure what's going on. I've got like 100 megabytes per second, so I'm not sure why it's lagging.
It's somewhere in between because I just looked. I also have 130 or so. So do not worry about it. Okay,
Yeah.
let's. I make a note. 44, 55. Okay.
Number 3.
So with that, let's play. Let's play rapid fire question food service edition. Give me a number between 1 and 25.
3.
3.
3.
Is it okay
Yeah.
to serve a cocktail in a cereal bowl just to mess with your guest? Yes or no, and why?
100% yes. And the reason why is because I think their rules are made to be broken.
I love it. Couldn't agree with you more. Serve more stuff in a cereal bowl. Okay, give me a number between 1 and 25.
Exactly. 17.
17. If you could drink soup from a champagne flute, should you? Yes or no, and why?
No.
Why not?
It just sounds weird.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm not sure who came up with that question. Give me a number between 1 and 25.
9.
9. Is it okay to dip your French fries into a milkshake? Or is it just plain wrong? Yes or no, and why?
I think it's a yes because salt and sweet, well. So if it works for you, go for
Good answer. Good answer. Love it. Give me a number between 1 and 25.
it. 25.
25. Should we start offering breakup meals on the menu just designed to make you cry or laugh, or both at the same time? Yes or no, and why?
So I would say yes. And I think absolutely, why not? Humor is amazing and we should all laugh more.
I love it. Number between 1 and 25.
Let's go for 2.
2. Ooh. Should ramen noodles be legit breakfast food? Yes or no, and why?
So sorry, say again. Sorry, just slightly.
Should ramen noodles be legit breakfast food? Yes or no, and why?
100% sure. I travel the world, so what time's breakfast? It's just a relative construct.
I'm with
So
you. And
everything's up for grabs.
ramen noodles. So final question. Give me a number between 1 and 25.
Let's go for 23.
23. Ooh, oldie but goodie. Pineapple on a pizza. Yes or no, and why?
Sorry, say it again. I couldn't hear you.
Yeah.
We've got a signal issue.
It's one of those questions. Would you like to have pineapple on a pizza? Yes or no, and why?
Ooh, so I mean, and I'd say definitely yes, because in Australia, a pineapple on a pizza is called an Aussie pizza. So if I said no, that would be really anti Australia, not Austria, Australia.
I love that. And that completes Rapid Fire Question Food Service Edition. I'm in Connecticut. And Connecticut is known as the pizza capital of the world because people are telling everybody pizza in New Haven, Connecticut is better than in Italy. So leave the pineapple at home. Eat it as a dessert. Don't put it on the pineapple. So
it's an interesting.
I want to say
I've been to pizza in Connecticut, and it's definitely worth traveling for. But Australia does pretty good. Melbourne does pretty good pizza as well.
That's awesome. And for me, I'm a big pizza guy. I don't like burnt pizza. I want just deep dish, good old fashioned. I'm not like modern or some of the other companies. It's just too much for me. So, with that, I want to say thanks for being here. But before we let you go, what is the one thing chefs can do tomorrow to have an impact on their food system?
Eat more beans.
It's also known as the French song bean. There's a few different beans. I'm telling you, soak him because then you don't need to worry about the gas so much. Okay, there's just little things which you can do to make a bean absolutely delicious. So with that, I want to say thanks for being here today. Thanks for the concerns we had about internet not working. Do not worry about it. I absolutely love what you stand for. I love what you do. I love the missions you have, and I hope all of our listeners don't just walk to the internet, they run to the internet and support you and the causes you have. So with that, I want to say thanks for being here today. Thanks for the gift of your time, and thanks for sharing so freely. It means the world to us.
Thank you so much, Chef. It's been great to be with you. So thank you so much. And I've enjoyed chatting, and hopefully we'll meet somewhere between Austria and Australia and Connecticut. Maybe, I don't know where that is. There's probably an island somewhere.
Yeah, I promise you,
Maybe
I bring you the t-shirts. There's no I bring you the t-shirt. There's no kangaroos in Austria. And so to our listeners, make sure you go out and check out what Paul is doing. It's absolutely amazing. And the more you dive into it, the more you will love the person you're gonna meet. So with that, I want to say goodbye to everybody. Until next time, remember to disrupt the kitchen, fire up your career, stay hungry for change. I'm Christian. I'm here with Paul, and we are out of here. We are signing off. So be the change, be the challenge, and be the chef who sets the world on fire. With that, thanks everybody, and stay disruptive, everybody.